Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk ETC. I have our good friend Kevin Lord today, and he's going to discuss, first of all, some timely announcements, and then he's going to describe all of the wonderful happenings at Input Output, otherwise known as IOHK, and how it is going to benefit Ethereum Classic. So welcome, Kevin.
Hey, Christian. Good to be back.
Yeah, so I've appreciated your coming on the show in the past and all your help and encouragement. And so I'm always thankful to have you on the show. And you're always you're in the know, you know what's going on in the community and all the happenings. And so you always have good information. So I understand you had some timely announcements then that you wanted to share with the community. So why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to just say that your show is definitely providing a service to the ETC community and the cryptocurrency community in general. So I really applaud you for keeping this going and for all the work that you've done with the podcast. But to start off, there is a finalization call for ECIP 1054, which is otherwise known as Atlantis. So there's a community call tomorrow for developers. It's going to happen in the ETC Discord in the ECIP channel. So make sure if you want to leave your feedback, if you want to comment, or you want to know more about what exactly is happening, we'll be discussing exactly the timeline for the protocol upgrade and other things related to Atlantis. So that's going to be tomorrow, May 30th. In the ETC Discord. It's going to be no longer than 60 minutes, and that's going to be at 3 p.m. UTC. So that was one item that I wanted to bring up that's really important for the community to know about. Another item I wanted to bring up was the launch of the Astor testnet, which is the SHA-3 testnet using the Keccak 256 as the proof of work algorithm. Now that has been developed by Alexander Sankoff, and you can go ahead and create a node. You can run your own node. You can now mine. You can do a lot of interesting things, and this is just the beginning for that testnet should ETC need to switch mining algorithms in the future. This was in response to the January attack. So this is some of the developments that's been happening since then. And I really got to give it up to Alex for, creating the Block Explorer and pretty much all the assets that go along with the Astor testnet. Also, on another note, the Kadi testnet, the POA testnet, which is part of Project Go Early, has a new Block Explorer. This has been developed by the guys at Ethernode, and it is a Block Explorer based on the really wonderful Block Scout open source code. So that's a new Block Explorer that you can check out. Make sure you set up some more Kadi nodes. The more the merrier. But those were the little bit of house cleaning items, Chris, I wanted to share.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for the kind comments. So we decided to do a show on IOHK, and we both are financially supported by IOHK. And even though I'm obviously biased, I can honestly say I think they're an amazing company and they're doing great stuff. They have great people. And I've had other people from IOHK on the show, and they're doing just some really cutting edge stuff, and always enjoy having them. So why don't you kind of start us out? So why don't you enlighten us on some of the things happening at IOHK that people involved in ETC should know about?
Well, to start off, it's not more or less what's going on at IOHK, but it's more what can IOHK bring to ETC. IOHK is an agnostic research and development company that's focused on blockchain technology. So they have a lot of projects that overlap. And that creates a big pool of resources that can be potentially implemented or applied to different blockchains. So, we're going to have in the future, in my opinion, there's going to be mission critical programming that's going to be built on top of these blockchains. So to have that security, you're going to need to have things that are provably correct or things that are provably secure, correct by construction. And these are some of the things that IOHK is really focused on. So a lot of their projects are focused around these using formal methods and making sure these things work as they're designed. So when I say there's going to be mission critical programming that's developed on top of these blockchains, if something goes wrong or if something bad happens, there's no do-over. There's not going to be a redo. You're not going to get that chance to sort of bail out anybody or
Right.
do anything of that sort. So we really need to focus on how can we make these smart contracts, provably secure. How can we make sure that they run as programmed with no interference, with no conflicts? So that's some of the things that IOHK is really focused on, not necessarily building for ETC, but this is a agnostic innovation that they're working on, things such as the Yellow testnet, the IELE testnet. So, in my opinion, projects like ETC are going to be using a simple base layer, but have these mission critical programming built on top of them. So, I think having IOHK in the ecosystem would be a really big asset to ETC.
I think you're correct. And you said that they're a research company, and for the people that don't know, there's countless peer-reviewed publications you can look up from input output on all kinds of various cryptocurrency related topics, right? And so, and yes, I could definitely see all of that hard work benefiting Ethereum Classic, either directly or indirectly. And formal methods is also definitely something that the world needs more of, especially in the blockchain space. And so if they're pushing the state of the art for that, that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I would love to see some of the things that I'm hearing and that I'm seeing at IOHK applied to Ethereum Classic. It would give, ETC unique features. It would give ETC some very, very, very good advantages over every other blockchain, because they don't have that advantage of having, a research and development company researching and developing.
Right.
So I think a lot of what IOHK is doing, like I said, overlaps. So a lot of what they provide is tech agnostic, and it gives us the benefit of having this larger pool of resources and ideas and potential features that can be implemented in different parts and different layers of blockchain projects. So, the other week I was listening to the Ethereum Classic podcast, and they had Michael Collison on there, and he was talking about how he would like to have more programming languages, high level functional programming languages brought into the ETC ecosystem, so we could bring in more developers and bring in more things that we can do with smart contracts. And when he said that, I thought right away, okay, so he's working on, compilers, he's working on the LLVM for ETC Labs Core. ETC Labs Core has a few agnostic projects that they're doing, and right away that clicked in my mind, like, okay, so IOHK has this VM called Yella, which is it's a variant of the LLVM virtual machine, and I thought, that would be right up our alley to collaborate with that's that overlap that I'm talking about.
Sure.
And it definitely gives us the opportunity to share that pool of resources, share those ideas that or share that research that maybe we're ahead of them on, or that they could use, or maybe they're ahead of us on, or that we can use. It really opens that door up to being able to innovate and bring these innovations to ETC. ETC, for the most part, is a very conservative and very simple blockchain compared to a lot of these other feature-rich blockchains. There's a lot of blockchain projects out there that want to be both. They want to be feature-rich, and they also want to be incredibly secure. And in my opinion, that's just not possible to have those both things on one layer. So I think bringing these types of innovations and tacking them on to ETC would bring a lot of advantages to the ecosystem, and bring a lot of other developers who are more skilled with maybe Scala, or maybe let's say Rust, or maybe any
Haskell, right?
Haskell, to develop on ETC. ETC has very, very distinct properties and very, very distinct characteristics that no other blockchain has, not even Ethereum. Ethereum Classic has the advantage of its ecosystem being born out of abandonment. So there was no company, or there was no group that said, hey, let's raise a bunch of money to start this project. Okay, let's start this project. And now we have a blockchain, and now you can build on our blockchain, but it's decentralized, quote unquote. So ETC had this sort of Bitcoin approach where there were volunteers. From volunteers, groups started forming. From groups, you had teams starting to form. You had money start to flow in to fund these teams, and it just grew from there. So I think having that set of that ecosystem, or having that those properties of an ecosystem, gives anybody who's developing on top of it extra security,
right?
Because we don't have a group dictating the road ahead for the network. We don't have a group dictating what happens when something goes wrong. So I think that is an added bonus to the innovations that we could bring in from ETC Labs Core, or possibly from IOHK. What do you think about those?
Okay, so for people, just to recap, so if I understood you correctly, two of the things you said is IOHK is pushing the state of the art for formal methods, and that will help smart contract development on Ethereum Classic, and also that they were making it so that you could use other smart contract languages on ETC potentially in the near future. And so we don't have to be tied to Solidity as the only smart contract programming language. And so that's another thing that we might be able to enjoy in the near future. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, for the most part, yeah. I mean, IOHK right now is not developing anything specific to ETC. That right now is agnostic and can be applied to ETC.
Right. Could be. Yeah. It's there's no reason it couldn't be in the future.
Yeah. ETC Labs Core is developing their version of the LLVM, and Michael Collison, who's the compiler's lead, one of his goals was to bring more programming languages, high-level programming languages, to ETC. So that's their goal, more or less, or that's one of their goals, more or less, is to bring in more programming languages for developers to use on ETC. But IOHK can also apply that same approach to ETC as well.
Okay, yeah. Oh, and also I would just, in case anybody's confused, when you said that ETC wasn't feature rich, so we have to be clear that the Ethereum classic system has a Turing complete programming language, scripting language that it provides to the developers. So that allows you to write almost any smart contract to do anything you want. So in that sense, ETC is very feature rich. So maybe you meant something else by feature rich?
Yeah, I mean, what I meant by feature rich is a lot of complexity, like sharding on layer one, a lot of things on layer one. So, for example, having a treasury system on layer one.
Oh, okay, I see. So so just I think So what you're saying is ETC is not going hog wild, and what the motto: move fast and break things. They're not doing that in the infrastructure layer. So, but in case anybody wasn't clear, I just want to make sure that above that, for the developers, they have the tools and the power to make whatever smart contract
Definitely.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. ETC has a lot of innovation coming out, especially with the formation of ETC Labs Core. ETC Labs Core put out their Q1 review, I think, about a month ago, and they had a lot of great innovation that is going to be brought to ETC. And it is on the roadmap, so it is going to be implemented sooner or later. Whether or not that's going to happen this year or next, it's just a matter of time. But those innovations will be brought to ETC courtesy of ETC Labs Core.
Mm-hmm.
So like the LLVM, that's one that they're working on. They're also working on OpenRPC, which is another agnostic piece of tooling that can be used for literally any other blockchain out there. So they have a lot of interesting innovations that they are bringing to ETC, but IOHK also has a ton of innovation that they can bring to ETC.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, when I say they have a lot of innovation that they can bring to ETC, I want to mention non-interactive proofs of work. So this was something that was brought up, I believe, a little over a year and a half ago. It was proposed as a ECIP, and it was actually, when it first came out, it wasn't garnering that support that we thought it would. It actually got some criticism. And then shortly, maybe about a month and a half later, the community maybe finally went and read through it enough, and we got some really good feedback, and we got some comments like, hey, I would really like to see this implemented in ETC. So that was one of the major things that I think IOHK could bring to ETC that only ETC could benefit from. Right now, NPAPs have been implemented in a few other cryptocurrencies.
Wait. You're gonna have to enlighten us on what you meant by Was it non-interactive proof? Can you say that? Can you elaborate? Say the name again and then say a little bit of what it is.
So NPAPs is a synonym, it's not a. My God, it's
acronym.
Acronym. It's an acronym, and it stands for non-interactive proofs of proof of work. So basically, what that is, I want to break it down really simply. So it's a program to inspect or to verify that an event took place on a proof of work blockchain on another blockchain. So, for example, if you had a payment happen on one blockchain, you can have it inspected and see that happened, that indeed happened on that blockchain. So one of their examples is, let's say you have a payment that was made on Ethereum, and then this could cause a payment to be released by an Ethereum Classic contract to another user. So it can also bring so that's basically what it can serve. One purpose it can serve is to inspect that something happened on another chain, without being extremely without taking a lot of resources. So they're really, really efficient for creating mobile wallets. So, SPV wallets are something that you can compare these to. They're already really lightweight, but they take around, I think, 5 million block headers to verify that something, indeed happened. So with NePow, it's very, very, very small compared to that. It's only a sample of about let me get the metric right. It's only a sample of about 250 block headers. So that would allow the Ethereum Classic blockchain to grow and then have mobile wallets or have wallets be developed without having to verify the entire blockchain.
That is huge. That sounds like is extremely important, what you just described. So making even lightweight wallets, right? Think about Internet of Things and all these devices interacting with blockchains. So anything that could optimize the footprint of that sounds very important.
Yeah, this could benefit a lot of other components in the ecosystem. So, I mean, obviously, as time goes on and as more and more data goes into the blockchain, it's just going to get astronomical. So if you have a wallet and you need that wallet to connect to a node and to verify that your transaction took place. So, for example, the bread wallet for Bitcoin, that one, you have to download a certain amount of the chain before you can see that your transaction took place. So down the road, as when the chain gets extremely larger, it's going to take even more time for those to download and for you to see your transaction, yes, that it took place. So with NePows, the sample stays extremely small. So even if the blockchain grows after decades, the sample is still going to be extremely small. And like I said, compared to the 5 million block headers that you need to download with a SPV Lite wallet, you only need 250 for a NePow.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. By the way, so also SPV stands for Simple Payment Verification. For anybody that didn't know that. That is very cool. So that's why we have you on the show. You're in the know about all this cutting edge research stuff that IOHK is doing, so you can give us the scoop first.
Yeah, and this development or this technology has actually been around for a little while. It was developed by a few of our researchers, and they proposed it in an ECIP. So that ECIP exists, and it can be implemented in one of our next upgrades that we decide to do. One of the benefits of NePows is that it does not require a hard fork or a soft fork, but or even miner support or miner approval, because it can use something called a velvet fork, which is pretty amazing because if you don't need to have the approval of the miners to have this implemented, or you don't need to have the approval of all the other clients, this thing can still be implemented and users and developers can still benefit from it being there. So there's minimal friction to the ecosystem when it's implemented, if it's implemented.
Can you elaborate on what a velvet fork is for the audience?
I cannot, but I will link a page to what a velvet fork is.
Okay, I'll put that in the metadata.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways forks are. Ethereum has their spork. There's something called extension blocks, which are a type of way to implement something. There's a lot of ways to implement certain innovations into blockchain systems, but
okay, so basically it's a more gentle way to add innovation without having the disruption of a hard fork.
Exactly. So there would be, it will be extremely non-contentious. It will be extremely easy, and it will be extremely easy to implement, and it will be very minimal effect on the ecosystem. So the upside to adding this to Ethereum Classic is extremely high.
Okay, good. All right, so we've talked about formal methods and other smart contract languages, and now NePows. Is there anything else that we should be aware of? Do you want to share with us?
That seems to be a lot of the innovation that I'm noticing in the IOHK realm. But I would love to see this sort of thing implemented into Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic has, like I said, the benefit of being born out of abandonment. It doesn't have a central entity like a lot of these other wannabe blockchains have, where you had one company create a few servers, and now they've created a network and they've tokenized something, and now they're selling their tokens, and there's just no need for them to exist. Whereas Ethereum Classic was born and it was created by volunteers. So it exists because the users wanted it to exist.
Right.
It wasn't exist to create. It wasn't created as a money-making venture as most of these other blockchain projects are.
Right. Good point.
If we can add these innovations into ETC, it would only benefit. It would only further benefit the ecosystem, even more so, and it would give us some great advantages over a lot of these other blockchain projects.
Yep, good. Let me just add one last suggestion. So sometimes people ask, how can I learn about blockchain technology? How can I learn about Ethereum Classic? So, and what's going to happen in the future. So if you've never seen, Charles Hoskinson, he's really good about doing interviews and describing his roadmap and his predictions. And I always learn something whenever I hear an interview that he's done. And so I would just throw that out there. If you can Google on YouTube, other places, and if you could find Charles Hoskinson, an interview by him, that is bound to bear fruit.
Yeah, Charles is a great explainer. He can explain things that are really complex in a very simple way. I think if you go back and watch the interview that you did with him a while ago, you'll still learn something new. Every time I go and watch something of his, whether that's from the IOH or whether that's from the ETC summits or from the interviews done from the ETC summits, I always learn something new. But yeah, he's also excited and possibly bringing some innovation to ETC.
Right. Very good. All right. So any last comments you want to add before we wind things up?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to mention that we also have the summit coming up in August. I'm sorry, in October. So just want to remind everybody again that we do have tickets on sale. And if you want to pay in Ethereum Classic, only Ethereum Classic, you can go ahead and contact Bob Somerville. He will make that accommodation for you. But we only are accepting Ethereum Classic. It's going to take place up in Vancouver, which is going to be really amazing. They have a really, really great cryptocurrency community up there in Vancouver. So it's going to be extremely exciting. I want to remind everybody again that we do have a developer call tomorrow for Atlantis. So that's going to be tomorrow, May 30th. And if you want to make your feedback heard, if you want to participate, this is where you should be tomorrow in the ETC Discord. at 3 p.m. UTC. Make sure you're there. Also, if you want to run an Astor node, which is the SHA-3 testnet for ETC, for possible future proof of work change to catch Act 256, go ahead and go to Astor. I'll link the description. I'll link the link in the description. But yeah, we need people to set up some nodes. Alex has gone up and set up a guide to setting up a node. He's set up a block explorer. He's set up a network status web page. So definitely check that out. Contribute, do your part in the ecosystem. Don't stand there on the sidelines. Come out here and participate. We could always use more Caudy nodes. That's the proof of authority testnet. I actually set up 2 of them yesterday. So yeah, you can go ahead and set up some Caudy nodes also. We have that new Caudy Explorer by the Ethernode team. And also, let me run down here through my notes. Yep. So that looks like that covers all the house cleaning items that I had to bring up.
All right. Very good. So thank you, Kevin, again for joining us, and have a good rest of the day. Best wishes to you until we meet again.
Thanks. You too, Christian. It's great being on.
Hey, bye.